Just like the Spyro Retrospective, this review is long overdue, about 3 months overdue that is. But I've delayed this finale for good reason, as this particular video has been a year in the making. I've been playing New Leaf about twice a week for a little less than 12 months so I could properly analyze it. This is debatably the most immersive and content-filled game in the Animal Crossing series. Compared to City Folk, New Leaf is its polar opposite. Where City Folk focused on simplicity, New Leaf emphasizes complexity, which is not all that bad. That being said, how is New Leaf by its own merits? Is it truly the best entry point into the series? Well, let's begin with that exhilarating plot, and I'm not being entirely sarcastic here, the story is actually fairly well developed. Like past installments, the story is usually only present in the beginning as a means to set up the game. After all, Animal Crossing always pushes gameplay above the story. Anyways, New Leaf starts out with a train ride to an unknown town when all of a sudden, Rover the cat arrives in your train car to interrogate you. He quizzes you about your name, where you're headed, criminal record, credit score, and right after that he disappears into a growing blackness until you finally arrive in your town. But then you realize it's inhabited by animal villagers that all hail you as their new mayor. Unfortunately, you don't seem too keen on the idea of ruling a town filled with animals through sheer communism. However, one thing leads to another and you're forced to be the leader of a socialist society by way of tree planting. There's no way to avoid your fate, your destiny of becoming head of the first Animal Reich. Once you assume this position, the story takes a backseat to the gameplay. Animal Crossing is not story-driven by any means, so this is fine. What carries New Leaf is that gameplay and dialogue. The interactions between animals and yourself are among the best in the series. Plus, the system is more developed to allow actual player input. When you talk to villagers, they can ask you for a catchphrase, which is not restricted by any censoring whatsoever. So you're free to say the most obscene things you can think of. These make for some hilarious conversations, which only add to my enjoyment of this game. Aside from that, all of the villagers are charismatic and have differing dialogue that reflect their different personalities. It makes talking to villagers quite compelling, and it feels like doing their requests has some meaning and value. Your relationship with the animals does improve as you talk to them more and more, as eventually they'll give you a picture of themselves. Sure, you can get these photos on a holiday too, but this is much more meaningful. The same can be said for the gameplay, where there are a vast assortment of things to do. In fact, it's a little overwhelming to fathom just how many different things there are to do at any time of day. This is sort of a double-sided debacle, where on one hand I appreciate the variety and like that the gameplay is so fast-paced and not too time-dependent. Before, the predecessors like Wild World limited what you could do with time restraints. For example, you couldn't enter in the fishing tourney until noon in Wild World, but in New Leaf you can enter in as early as 9 AM. These subtle changes are really nice to players who have stressful, busy lives and either don't have the time or don't want to change the time to participate in certain events in Animal Crossing. But on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, all of these changes make an indecisive person like myself a tad stressed out. Say it's 7 PM. What do I do? Do I fossil hunt? Do I fish for that shark I need for the museum? Do I bug hunt on the island to rake in bells upon bells? Do I try to make my moves on the animals in my town? Do I garden? Like I said, this is not a significant problem, nor one that hampers my enjoyment of New Leaf, but it's something worth mentioning since City Folk was the epitome of stress-free gameplay and atmosphere. I imagine this change in focus would result in some disapproval from fans of the past installment. I know going from an average schmuck in City Folk to being the mayor in New Leaf for me was daunting initially. One of the more in-depth aspects of this game is being the aforementioned mayor and fulfilling your mayoral duties when you want to. Although you're the leader of your town and have seemingly no other authority to balance your power except for maybe Isabelle, you're limited in what you can and cannot do. For instance, you cannot evict people from your town, take their furniture or belongings, confiscate all the bells in the town, create currency to fix your economic crisis after buying that $1 million crown, or punish those who have wronged you, Elise. Anyways, what you can do is decree ordinances, do public works projects, change custom aspects of your town, and get rid of any and all defamatory statements. Well, I guess that's nice. At least as mayor you can censor your citizens. To do all this, even that little bit about censoring the animal populace, you have to speak with your assistant, Isabel. Think of her like Stalin after Vladimir Lenin was dying and couldn't rule in the USSR. Although you give the orders, she's ultimately the one carrying them out, doing the dirty paperwork and running the show. Once you confront Isabel, one thing you're allowed to do is set town ordinances, which come in 4 flavors: Keep Town Beautiful, Early Bird Town, Nightlife Town, and Bell Boom Town. The Early Bird Town ordinance is pretty self-explanatory. It makes it so villagers wake up and go to bed 3 hours earlier and shops open and close 3 hours earlier. This is perfect for people who are, well, early birds. If you wake up super early and still want to do your New Leaf routine before work, school, or something else, you can. Little things like this make me happy for some odd reason. I love it when developers are thinking about all the people who might play their life simulation game and are trying to accommodate for their needs while also trying to comply with the needs of others. By making this ordinance an option for early birds, it benefits them and simultaneously doesn't hamper those who are not early birds. Then there's the Nightlife Town ordinance that is, as you might have guessed, the opposite of the Early Bird Town ordinance. It forces the villagers to get up 3 hours later and for shops to open and close 3 hours later. Currently I'm writing this script at 10:46 p.m. EST, and I usually go to bed anywhere between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. So this particular ordinance is greatly appreciated, as playing at night and not being able to do much was always a huge issue I had with Wild World and City Folk. Plus, when you're coming back from the island at night, being able to sell your loot right away is nice, since I would usually forget about it the day after if it was stored away. Despite this being the obvious ordinance that someone like me should decree, the Bell Boom Town ordinance is usually the one I go with. This one causes both buying and selling prices to increase, more medals to be earned during island tours, and 2, as opposed to 1, high-priced items being sold at retail every day. Now, when I play New Leaf, I usually strive to make as much money as possible because the illusion of money is what makes the world go round. I've found myself constantly going to retail to sell bugs, fish, and fossils after a good day and wanting to make the most amount of bells possible, which this ordinance allows. Just getting all these bells is enough satisfaction for me. Seeing more money flood into my bank account is a wonderful feeling. It more than doubled my daily earnings, which is fantastic because by the time the throne rolled into town, I was ready to drop 700,000 bells for it. The last ordinance is called Keep Town Beautiful, which is easily the most comprehensive one. Its effects are eradicating the cockroach race, preventing weeds and wilting, causing time travel to not hurt the environment, and making the villagers water flowers against their will. I only used the Keep Town Beautiful ordinance for a little while when I wanted to achieve the coveted perfect town status. Perfect towns are accomplished in sort of a complicated manner. You have to have a sizable amount of public works scattered around in your town, have quite a few flowers and trees, and keep the town litter free. At certain times of the day, you can check with Isabel to see if you have a perfect town. If you do, you'll start seeing these neat plants blossoming called Jacob's Ladders. And although this reward isn't too special, I enjoy flowers like these. Plus, if you can keep the perfect town status for 15 days, you'll be rewarded with this highly efficient golden watering can. Just by being perfect, you can also build a flower clock as a new public works project. Now, these public works projects are kinda daunting if you're aiming to install as many as you can. They allow you to customize your town, as you can set up bridges to make walking simplified and other buildings like the Roost and Rossetti Center to spice up your town. If you want to construct a public works project, you talk to Isabel, choose from an expansive list of different structures, and tell Isabel to plop down the project wherever you see fit. Then, a Lloyd with a little yellow hat appears for people to put bells towards that project, which is absolutely pointless because the villagers have never once significantly contributed to a project whenever I set this donation box up. Even though I'm working for these animals, I usually end up paying the price for the public works. It would have been nice if villagers actually contributed, or they would contribute more if you talk to them more, but I digress. When these do get funded, the project is completed, and Isabel throws a short ceremony, and I guess that's as good of a reward as any for diversifying your town. Other than those mayoral duties, your main objective is to acquire as many bells as possible. Your goal to become the cartoon incarnation of Trump can be realized through digging, bug hunting, fishing, gardening, diving, and turnips. Digging up X-shaped holes in the ground for fossils is pretty self-explanatory. These fossils you uncover can be examined by Blathers, the museum's leader, and donated if you so desire. Donating items to the museum can net you cheap and efficient silver tools, storage rooms, and other unique furniture, so donating every now and again to the museum is a worthwhile investment. Plus, you can tour the museum at any time to see your progress in filling it up. The fossils are especially cool because the prehistoric skeletons look really neat. Nevertheless, once you're done filling up the museum with your fossils, or you simply don't care about Blathers, you can sell them to retail at a relatively low rate, so it's not really worth digging up fossils if you want to rake in as many bells as possible. That's not saying doing things with your shovel can't get you some extra money though, because there's also money rocks that can yield a few thousand bells, or rare ores if you're lucky. Fishing is another fun way to make some money on the side, even if fishing is more involved than, say, bug hunting or digging up fossils. All you need to do is purchase a fishing rod from your resident big bald Tanuki brothers, and then toss your bobber in the water and wait. When a black silhouette approaches the bobber and causes it to sink, you can then reel in whatever's there. Sometimes it will be worthless junk, like cans, boots, and bass, but other times, especially near the coastline and at the island, it could be something valuable like sharks or rare fish. Now that you have fish, you can choose to sell them at retail or be a good Samaritan and donate them to the museum. Fish are fairly profitable, so I almost always sold mine. Plus, if the fishing tourney is in town, you can win a trophy by submitting your fish. Together with the bug hunting tourney, these little events that inspire you to do a particular thing that day are pretty nice and fun. Although winning is easy if you have a valuable creature offhand, so that diminishes how competitive the event could be. On the topic of bug hunting, that's the most enjoyable and financially successful activity in New Leaf. Like fishing, you can buy a net and then look around for bugs to imprison in these nice tight boxes. Basically, bugs can be found all around your town, in the ground, rolling snowballs, on trees, hopping around, chasing you, flying around, or feasting off rotten garbage. Catching them is quite simple. You slowly walk up to them, which is made easy by holding down A, and release the full fury of your net! There are tons of bugs to collect, which is great if you're into that kind of stuff, but the more practical gain of bug hunting are bells. Certain bugs, like the nocturnal beetles, sell for a lot of money, making bug hunting the most profitable industry in society. The most efficient way to maximize your profit is by utilizing the island, a customizable, diverse location that Captain can take you to at any time of day. Unfortunately for the island, getting the most bugs for your buck requires environmental destruction, with only palm trees being planted on the coastline. At night, there will be tons of beetles on these trees for you to catch and sell. Because you can make so much money off of bug hunting, it was something I found myself doing a lot in New Leaf, more than I ever did in any of the past installments. This meant about 25% of my playtime consisted of being on the island, which does have more content than just being an exotic bug farm. The island has a lot of mini-games to play, which serve as a nice distraction from bug hunting or running a town. Sure, some mini-games are as simple as catching the rarest creature, digging up matching fossils, or playing hide-and-go-seek, but there are a few that manage to pique my interest, like hitting this Rossetti car with a hammer. Really, the only reason I touched these events were to rack up medals, an island currency that can get you tropical furniture and clothing. Apart from that, and this child that will pay you laughably minimal bells for rare bugs, the island can be a vessel for multiplayer encounters. Multiplayer is probably the best feature in New Leaf. Unlike City Folk, playing with other people is streamlined and effortless. All you need to do is have the person be your 3DS friend, which admittedly is somewhat complicated, or meet them on the island. On the island, you can meet random strangers from around the world and chat with them. Honestly, I never went around looking for random people to play New Leaf with because just about everyone I came across the first time were either really mean, were just there for flowers, or wanted a girlfriend or boyfriend. Yes, people actually went online in Animal Crossing New Leaf for the Nintendo 3DS to look for a suitable date. Trust me, I know from experience. Anyhow, playing with friends is quite fun. I've spent a lot of time just messing around with my pals, and no matter what we end up doing, either destroying each other's towns, seducing each other's villagers, hunting for bugs or fish, trading or seldomly working together, it's always really entertaining. Moving on from multiplayer, you can now, for the first time, swim in an Animal Crossing game. Ah yes, the only thing I've ever wanted to do in a life simulation game. Swim. By wearing a wetsuit from the island, you're able to dive into the ocean and roam around. This is another degree of freedom that's underappreciated in New Leaf. Not only can you do a lot on land, you can also explore the sea. Albeit clunky to control and actually catch underwater creatures, diving is fairly interesting. Although, the creatures aren't worth a lot, and there's no diving festival, so I never felt incentivized to dive a lot during my playtime. Regardless, diving is a welcome addition, and Pascal, the otter that really wants you to get him scallops, is a cool new character along with the mechanic. Speaking of amazing things, the presentation of New Leaf is absolutely wonderful. The new sort of pastel art style works great to create this atmosphere of tranquility and bliss. You feel immersed in this beautiful world. Everything is so well detailed. From the diverse cast of characters, to the unique furniture and settings, to the vibrant environment that looks stellar all year round, and New Leaf is visually stunning. Even the soundtrack, though minimalistic, features numerous tracks for all the times of day and special events, and they all sound great. The only critique I have is that the time of day themes are not my favorite in the series. That would have to go to City Folks themes. And I suppose I've pretty much exhausted all there is to discuss about New Leaf. Sure, I could go on about everything else in New Leaf, like designing your home, golden tools, upgrading the Nookling store, getting more shops on Main Street, the different tents that show up, the holidays, and so on, but a big part of why I love New Leaf is getting to experience new things. If I spoiled every single aspect of New Leaf, I feel like I would be doing you all a disservice. Overall, New Leaf is a fantastic game, and one that I'm glad I had the pleasure of experiencing. This is one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm glad I was able to share all there is to do in it with you all today. Because there's so much to do in this game and it's so enjoyable, I would strongly recommend you pick it up if you haven't done so. This is a title that needs no price drop or sale for you to get the most out of your purchase. Out of all the Animal Crossing games, this is the one you should try first, and probably the only one you'll end up playing if you get hooked on it. I know some people don't like New Leaf, and I get that. The life simulation genre is not for everyone, but I would at least encourage you to check it out before you write New Leaf off as too boring or something. And thus concludes the Animal Crossing Retrospective. I'm really happy that you guys really enjoyed this series, and I'll be back with another retrospective soon. I'm thinking of doing different retrospectives than the ones I promised, just to spice things up for my sake. So expect another retrospective sometime soon to replace this one, and hopefully the end of the Spyro one sometime soon. But as always, if you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this super long video, and take care, have a wonderful day, and goodbye!